I was trying to play off a Big Apple, and I couldn't think of anything good. The thing that came to my mind first was hot trash.
Oh, the hot trash cooled off a little bit this past weekend. The New York football teams that were combined 0-6 got a victory each, both in overtime on Sunday. The Jets beating the Titans. You know, once upon a time the Jets were the Titans, and the Giants beating the Saints in New Orleans' first home game with fans since 2019. That was something, Charean. What a difference a week makes. So, fill in the blanks. New York football is what this week?
Better than last week, Mike, as Josh Alper pointed out in our text string at PFT. It was one of the best days in New York sports history in recent memory because the Giants won, the Jets won, and the Yankees clinched a wild card berth. So at least until tomorrow when the Yankees play the Red Sox, they have something to cheer about in New York.
I remember somebody asked the question last week if the Giants could actually go 0-17, and I thought that was kind of ridiculous because it's not like the Giants were getting blown off the field. It was more amazing that the Jets won because the past 2 weeks they had been blown off the field. They had looked awful against the Patriots and then last week against the Broncos when they were shut out. The league is not built for no scoring. That's what makes what the Bills have done with 2 shutouts this year more impressive, and it makes what happened to the Jets in Denver last week more depressing, that they were unable to score a point. So both teams were impressive. New York football is back, at least until this next weekend when it could go right back into the pile of hot trash that it was before Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys, what, Charean?
I'm going to say they're contenders, Mike. They look that way when you look at how they lost to the Bucs in week 1, and then they've won ever since then, and they've beaten some quality teams in those wins. They're second in offense. They're 13 in defense, and that defense has really been the difference. You see what Trevon Diggs has done with those 5 interceptions that he's had. He had 2 more yesterday. But they have 10 turnovers, and they're +7, tied with Buffalo for the lead in takeaway ratio, in turnover ratio. So they've done a really good job at taking the ball away and protecting the ball, which was hindered them last year at the start of the season when Ezekiel Elliott couldn't hold on to the football. They're playing really good football right now. I don't know if they can keep this going the entire season, but when you start to look at their schedule, Mike, they've got a winnable games here for a while that they could go a while before their next loss.
They've got the Giants coming to town week 5. It's a 4:25 p.m. Eastern kickoff. It'll be a much bigger audience than what we would have expected going into the season because the Cowboys are so much better than we expected. They go to the Patriots after that, another late afternoon game. Bye week, and then it's Sunday Night Football week 8 at the Minnesota Vikings. But a lot of winnable games dotting the remainder of the schedule, including plenty of division games still to come. That's what's impressive. They've gotten 3 wins. Only 2 of them, or only 1 of them, has been against a division rival. They've still got 2 against the Giants, 2 against Washington, 1 more against Philly, and other games that I think they can win. They may be looking at 12-5. Still can't get used to that. 12-5 this year for the Cowboys. So the Cowboys are for real. I'm ready to say it. The Dallas Cowboys are for real. The Kansas City Chiefs are what, Charean?
I think they're who we thought they were going into the season, Mike. They look much better in that game. Now, I still have some big concerns about that defense. They couldn't force a punt yesterday, and they are ranked 16th in defense, but I just don't think their defense is playing up to the expectations that they have for themselves. And I know they were missing some players. I get that. But 461 yards to the Eagles, and you play some much better offenses than you played yesterday.
Yeah, and look, the Kansas City Chiefs are maturing. If you listen to the last segment, and I don't know how much the full 6-minute conversation got in, but it made me laugh at one point when Patrick Mahomes said that as I've gotten older, I've learned that I have to be more patient. It's like, dude, you're 26. You're not Tom Brady yet, but I remember talking to him going into his second season as a starter in 2019, and he was aware that the Patriots in the AFC Championship game 2018 had shown that the thing to do is back everybody off and force them to work their way down the field. So they're working in the running game. They are being more patient, and I think Patrick Mahomes hopes that success in the running game will draw defenses close to the line of scrimmage and allow him to have moments like he had yesterday when he found Tyreek Hill deep. The most surprising thing on Sunday was what, Charean?
Well, I'm going with the Saints, Mike. And the reason is, if you go back to that Packers game in week 1, and they talk about not having the energy, and I said, if you don't have energy in week 1, when are you going to have it? This was the Saints' first real home game. They played that first game against the Packers on the road in Jacksonville. It was considered a home game. They finally get to go home. You think, boy, after Hurricane Ida, with that crowd all juiced, they're going to come out. And I thought they were just going to roll the Giants, kind of like what they did after Hurricane Katrina. And I realized that was a longer absence and a bigger deal when they came back. But they played so good in that game and beat the Falcons, and they just weren't there. Maybe the entire being away from home a month caught up to them, but I was very surprised they didn't beat the Giants at home yesterday.
To me, the biggest surprise was the Cleveland Browns holding the Minnesota Vikings to 7 points. And the Vikings went right down the field, scored a touchdown to start the game, and then never scored again. And as the game went on, it became more and more obvious that the Vikings were not going to score. Now, they did throw a pass into the end zone, and I've yet to do anything other than point this out on Twitter, but Coach Dungy noticed it, and I think others did too. Adam Thielen was being held in the end zone when that last gasp throw landed. So we may have another Chargers-Chiefs situation, but I was impressed with how the Browns played defense. I think we need to be paying attention to Joe Woods as a potential head coaching candidate. Point I made with Mike Golick today, Charean, we see every year or two a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator becomes a magnet for cameras. It happened with Robert Saleh, and it helped create the groundswell. And also, he's a pretty damn good coach. But I think we need to start having the cameras find Joe Woods, because Kevin Stefanski is an offensive guy, and Joe Woods' defense is playing damn well after a couple of rough games to start the season. They've held the Bears to 6, the Vikings to 7 in their own building. That surprised me, and I think we need to take the Browns' defense seriously. How about blank should be the most concerned after 4 games? Who is the blank?
I'm going to go with the Steelers. After they beat the Bills in week 1, I thought, oh my gosh, I underestimated how good the Steelers are, and Big Ben's back for another year. And since then, Big Ben looks like he's on his last legs. His 78.9 passer rating, Mike, is ahead of only Brissett, Lawrence, Wilson, and Mills. 3 of those guys are rookies, and one of them didn't start the season as a starter. 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. This is a team you always expect to contend, because they do every single year. The last time they had a losing record was 2003 when they went 6-10. They're on the road to a losing record this year, Mike.
Yeah, and look, we've seen them turn around bad seasons before. I remember in 1989, they got beat 51-0 by the Browns week 1. The score against the Bengals was in the range of 48-17 week 2. It was abandoned ship time for Steelers fans. Week 3, the Vikings went to Pittsburgh. It was the first time I ever went to a Vikings game in person. The Steelers won that game, and the Steelers turned it around. And the Steelers made it to the final 8 that year, losing to the Broncos in the divisional round. So they are capable of turning it around. You never go to sleep on the Steelers, but they got to turn it around soon. The Patriots are the team that I think should be the most concerned, lost in the fact that they lost last night's game. They're 1-3, and they're 0-3 at home. How in the world are the Patriots 0-3 at home? They lost to the Dolphins week 1. They didn't look good. They got steamrolled by the Saints. They got to get it together. And I know that some are saying what happened last night was a moral victory and Mac Jones showed promise. That's fine, but you got to start winning games, because this thing can get away from you quickly if you don't. And 1-3 is not acceptable for the New England Patriots. It's a continuation of last year's disappointment. And how differently we would feel about them if that kick had gone in, or if they'd gone for it on 4th and 3 and gotten it and not left Tom Brady time to get down the field. But I think it's really time. Not that the Patriots are ever going to freak out. They're going to keep doing what they do. But I'm taking a look at the schedule here while I say this. Their next game is at the Texans, so never mind. 2-3 is coming, but then the Cowboys come to town, and they're looking at 2-4 plus 0-4 at home, almost halfway through their home slate, Charean.
Tom Brady with more victories at Gillette Stadium this season than Bill Belichick. Take that.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa with more victories at Gillette Stadium this year than Bill Belichick. Take that, too. That's even worse.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.